their mental tenacity, and then emotional intelligence. The truth is that many of us fail to talk about this particular thing. I think Joy mentioned something like that when she was talking. A whole lot of us sweep all these things under the carpet. We will get to that point in time because the society had told us not to do that. Because somehow you feel that there is a correlation between, or when you talk about mental health, you are talking about psychiatry, or you are talking about being sane. You are totally associating mental health with sanity, with psychiatry. And so people find it difficult when you tell them, why not talk about your mental health to an expert? And the next question they are going to ask you, am I mad? And it's beyond that. And that had really created a kind of silent culture. And from what we are going to see in here today, you will see how vital your mental health is to your overall well-being. And that is one of the things we are creating. And let's go to the next slide. So what are the things that we need to do? We need some things that are very important. And one of them is what we are talking about here today. Trainings about our well-being. What about stress awareness? What about work-life balance? What about your mental health awareness? What about positive support, building personal resilience, empowerment, which Sherock is doing, confidence, being productive, self-talk, being mindful manager, enjoyment. You want to enjoy your life, but there are some things that are like underlying factors that must not be done away with, that we need to talk about. Encouragement, happiness, and then fulfillment. And in the next screen, on the next slide that you're seeing right now, it is what I call our tip of health iceberg. Our tip of health iceberg. And then there is a large mass that is lying underneath the water that you don't see. And if you as a sailor, because of what you see, you run into the iceberg based on the fact that you only see the tip, then your ship or your boat will capsize. Because there's a mass underneath that you cannot even see. And the same thing applies to our own health. Our health, look at what we focus on. Most of us focus on what we call our physical health, which is comprised of diet and exercise. I mean, you want to eat well, there's no doubt. That is it, because you are a product of what you eat. I mean, we are going to go into that because it's important. And then everybody wants to exercise now. You have a kind of body shape that you aspire. As a female, you want to have a figure. Some call it figure 8, some call it figure S, for whatever alphabet you choose, for whatever figure you want to have. It's good, no doubt about it. And for men, some of them want to have 5 packs, 6 packs. Some of them have, such, you build your abs. And some of us, someone like me, I'm blessed with 1 pack and I'm okay with that, So it's good. There's nothing wrong with that. But somehow we have swept a whole lot of things under the carpet that we don't even talk about. What about our emotional health? What about spiritual health? Things that we ignore: mental health, environmental health, social health, and even occupational health. All these things, if you don't take note of it, you will find out that there is something that is wrong that you don't know, that you cannot place your hands on, and it's affecting your productivity. It's affecting your relationship with people. It's affecting how you interact with your world in one way or the other, just because you have failed to take note of this particular thing, because it is supposed to be a 360 degrees health package for you. You need not just to focus on one part of it. And that is why we are here today to talk about it. Look at the mental health statistics that we have, because statistics is very important sometimes. It will show us what was, what is, and what is to come, for us to make plan, and then for us to also see what is obtainable. It is said that 1 in 6 of us will experience mental health problem in any given week. 1 in 6 of us. And the second one, 1 in 30 experience post-traumatic stress disorder, which is PTSD. Now, this is as a result of an event that you either witness or happen to you now. It could be verbal, it could be mental, it could even be physical. Some people have been abused in their past. It could be verbal abuse. Some people have been bullied. Some people have been sexually abused. And somehow they still find out that something is wrong with them. But if you don't correct it, it will continue to linger. It will continue to build up pressure. It will continue to build up stress on you, and you will not know. And such things will play out. Then you begin to withdraw. Then you begin to isolate yourself in one way or the other. Just because you don't know that there is a problem doesn't mean the problem does not exist. So look at it. 1 in 30 experience PTSD. And then children with anxiety disorder are less likely to receive treatment, because we don't even take note that our children's mental health too, they are so important. And as women now, right on this program, I will also want us to take it as a sense of responsibility of checking, or you don't only check on their performances in school. As a matter of fact, their mental health first is much more important than their grades at school. Because when you keep piling pressure on them and they keep showing signs that there is an underlying effect, because actions and reactions, they are equal and opposite. If you show me what you do, I'm going to show you underlying emotions behind the scene that you don't know. So maybe the reason why he or she is not even having good grades might be some underlying factors that you've not been able to take note of, as we are going to see later on. So these are the things that we need to imbibe personally and take personal responsibility for. The last but not the least, depression rate rose by 65% with the advent of smartphones. This is a research that was carried out in 2005 in Harvard, and it was discovered that after the invention or the advent of smartphones, there is an increase in the rate of depression. And this is not because smartphone is the cause of depression, but it correlates with that period as a result of the way people use it. The reason is because a whole lot of people engage in some things that are not called for using the smartphones, and somehow it puts them into that kind of state. So the next question that someone might ask me now is, this mental health that we want to talk about today, what is it? What is mental health? Is it about madness? Is it about psychiatry? Is it about people who are running crazy? You know, what is mental health? Next screen. Your mental health is comprised of 3 important states. And I want you to really, really take note of these states, because these are the states that your mental health is comprised of. The number 1 of them is your emotional state. And your emotional state talks about how you feel. Remember, we're talking about you building mental health tenacity and emotional intelligence. So when we talk about mental health, it comprises of your emotional intelligence as well. How do you feel? What are your interests in life? Things about your happiness and satisfaction. And you find out that some people are not even satisfied with their lives. That's why you find a whole lot of people go ahead to take their lives in one way or the other. What are the interests in life? Some people are stuck doing things they don't like. And somehow, how would they be productive in such a kind of way of life? It will be very difficult. So it's about you now trying to grow your interest in those things and see how you can now rearrange or redefine how you react to those things in one way or the other. So it talks about your emotional state. That's the first state of your mental health. Number 2 is your psychological state. Your psychological state. And your psychological state talks about how we think, liking most part of one's personality, being good at managing daily life responsibilities, having good relationship with others, and then being satisfied with one's own life. I mean, check all these things. Which of these things does not apply to you that you can take off? And I'm going to bet you there is none. I mean, the first one talks about how we think. You are a product of how you think, because how you think determines who you will become and who you really are. Then, do you like your personality? about people having low self-esteem, and somehow because they don't the level of their belief in their personality. And then there is no how, whether it's business, whether it's a paid employment, whether it's your relationship with your spouse, whether it's your relationship with your children, there is going to be an interference if you are having a personality issue. How good are you at managing daily life's responsibility? We're going to get to something that talks well about it. Then having good relationship with others, because we are social beings. So all these things are your psychological state, and your mental health talks about that. And the last state, which is not the least, is your social state. Your social state talks about your social contribution, how well you are able to contribute to the society. I mean, like Sherock is doing now, there is a kind of feel-good effect that comes after this program. Mrs. Joy, you are going to testify to that because you are contributing into the world in general in one way or the other. What about social integration, social actualization, and social coherence? The reason is because we are social beings. We are not created to be in isolation. We are created to mingle together. We are created to be together. And that was why it was tough somehow when the pandemic struck and we are pushed into isolation, that we have to just move away from one another, no handshake, no hug, nothing. And some people need hugs to survive. Some people need handshakes to survive. So it created a whole lot of stress on people in one way or the other. So there is that state of you that craves for socialization, and that's your social state. If your social state is affected, if your emotional state is affected, if your psychological state is affected, your mental health is affected. Hit the next screen. Now, we've talked about the state that your mental health is comprised of. I really now want to give a definition of what mental health is now. Although we sometimes hear the term mental health and think about mental illness, the two are not the same. And this will help some people to even break a whole lot of barriers of them coming out, because mental illness encompasses disorders that occur in the brain, bipolar disorder or OCD, that's obsessive compulsive disorder, and so many other disorders in the brain. Those ones are mental illness. But what is mental health? This is very important. I'm going to define mental health as defined by the World Health Organization. And I love this definition because it is all encompassing. After reading the definition, I'm going to break it down a little bit so that you will be able to see how mental health applies to you personally. The World Health Organization defines mental health as the state of well-being in which every individual realizes his or her own potential, can cope with the normal stress of life, can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make contribution to his or her community. Wow, that is massive. That's absolutely massive. The first thing you are going to see in this definition is the fact that mental health is a state. It's a state of well-being. If you accept that it's a state, you are going to be liberated a lot. Don't beat yourself up. Do not beat yourself up. I use water as an analogy whenever I want to describe this particular state. Water exists in three important states. You have the solid, you have the liquid, and you have the gas. And in a layman language, the state that I just mentioned of water is determined by the amount of temperature you expose the water to. If that temperature is freezing, like you are having in most part of the temperate region now, and you are going to have a solid form of water, which is the ice. If it's from 0 degree to -degree centigrade, then you have the solid. That's the solid form. But if you begin to raise the temperature, to room temperature, and then you begin to have liquid, it begins to flow. And after a while, if you continue to raise that temperature, the level of temperature you apply, and it gets to what is called the boiling point, that's between 100 degrees centigrade and above, what happens? Then you begin to have the gaseous form of the water. So if you are boiling water now, you see that there is steam going up. If you use a barricade and put it over the steam, When you look underneath, what you have there is water. So somehow that tells you that sometimes it is what you expose your mental health to that determines the volatility of your mental health. What are those things that you expose yourself to? And sometimes when you get exposed to those things, do not beat yourself up, because that's not the problem. The problem now would be, how well are you now able to galvanize yourself, get yourself back together, and make things better? So first thing first is the fact that your mental health is a state of well-being. Our own potential. We all love to do that. And the next thing is very important. Can cope with the normal stress of life. So when we talk about mental health now, staying mentally healthy, it doesn't mean that the stress of life will not come. So you are still going to be shouting. Someone who is close to you, your emotions, your feelings are still going to be hurt somehow. Someone is still going to let you down. Someone is still going to scream at you, maybe your boss at work, and you're still going to experience some stress of life generally. It might be stress as a result of childbirth. It might be stress as a result of raising children. It might be stress as a result of changing environment. It could come. But your ability to cope with that stress is what your mental health wants to help you address. And then that will make you stay productively, fruitfully, and then you'll be able to make contribution to your society at large. Hit the next screen. So this is very important for us, because even as you transit from where you are to the workplace environment or from wherever, you see that mentally healthy workplaces can improve productivity and profitability, strengthen relationships among staff and clients, and reduce absenteeism and turnover, based on what we have said earlier on. So if you are looking for, there is no productivity without a good mental health. I mean, if you want to be productive, personal productivity in your home, in your workplace, among your society, you definitely need to work on your mental health. Hit the next screen. So why is your mental health important? We've said some things about that, but let's just highlight some things. Number one, it is essential to our well-being. Out mental health. And two, when someone's mental health is suffering, it can affect every aspect of his life, because it impairs how he thinks, feels, and eventually acts. So if you see someone who is nagging, if you see someone who is irritable, if you see someone who shouts somehow, I mean, do not address that particular act. Look at what is like the cursor or the precursor of such act. What leads to that act? That's what you should do. Because if you don't solve that problem, then the action will continue. Show me what you do. I will show you emotions that make you do what you do. And then the next one, change in social, psychological, and emotional state can lead to physical action or a lack thereof. So that means that if you change your social state, that's why sometimes what some people need might be a change of environment. You might need to change your environment sometimes. I mean, that's why some people, I mean, you need to go on as far as you want. I used to tell people, sometimes you condition yourself to a kind of vacation that you want. So in your room now, you have a big house or even a small house. So in your room, you can get a cardboard, take your children to the parlor. All of you, the dad, the mom, the children, you are in the parlor. And in the room, then you have a cardboard and you wrote, "Welcome to Dubai." Then, and you have your meal right there. And you move from the parlor and then you are walking majestically. Yeah, we're going to Dubai. And then you sit down wherever you have to sit. And then you are eating and then you are whining, you are dining. Somehow you are mentally creating a different environment, even within your environment. And that can lead to an action. That can lead to a kind of change. I mean, because your brain needs feedback from you. We might get to that. That's it. When you work with your brain needs feedback from you. And the feedback your brain gets from you determine how your brain is going to instruct other parts of your body to work. There are some certain hormones that will be secreted. As you are going into the room, I mean, that feelings will change. Hey, even though it's not Dubai, you are preparing yourself, till that time that you get there. But now that you can't get there, create that environment. Let there be meal there. Let there be cake there. Let there be drinks that the children love. And then you are screaming, you are playing music, you are dancing, you are creating a good environment for yourself. Your brain will say, wow, these people need to be happy. And it will instruct some hormones in your body to get secreted. They are called feel-good hormones. And when they are secreted, you don't even know how you get happy. You are still having some problems. You are still having some issues. But yet, at that point in time, something had been secreted into your blood veins, and then you are happy instantaneously. That's how it works sometimes. And it's said that your mental health has a huge correlation with the 6 human needs. The 6 human needs. And anything that addresses the 6 human needs is very, very crucial to our overall well-being. What are the 6 human needs? Quickly, hit the screen. I mean, the first thing is certainty. We need to be certain. Everybody needs to be certain what's happening. You need to be sure. I mean, people need to be sure of their future, of what is going to happen in one way or the other tomorrow and all the rest. So everybody needs that. Somehow too, the creator knows that sometimes it's going to be boring if you keep getting certain about everything. Yeah, it's going to be boring. If you know what someone is going to do, I mean, there will be no suspense. And that's why there is also the need for uncertainty. Everybody loves variety. Like we say, variety is the spice of life. And then surprises are good. I mean, how good it is, like you have your husband blindfold you, they have a surprise for you, and then is dangling a key in front of you, and when you hold the key, you just open your eyes, or new car. I mean, significance, connection and love, growth, and your mental health addresses each and all of these things. I might not be able to dwell further on this. Yeah, next slide, please. So you see how important your mental health is in one way or the other. But hey, there are things that affect our mental health that I will need to talk about before we leave today. The first one of them is the word stress. Just say the word stress right now, because everybody talks about it. I'm stressed out. Hey, stressful, stress. It's a common language. But I want to let you know that stress itself is not bad. Stress itself, it's not bad on its own, because stress, without stress, we will not be alive. Stress is a regulatory mechanism in us. So what that means is that if you are not stressed, that means you keep working and working and working until you just break down totally. Because stress tells you that something is wrong, and then you need to adjust. So your body adjusting to it is when it comes. So stress on its own, stress itself is not bad. But how well you are able to manage stress, that is the key. That is very, very important. I mean, hit the next screen and see what stress had done to people. Now, late last year, or sometimes last year, if I'm not mistaken, there is this news that we heard about a nurse who killed herself at hospital shift. She had been working and working and working and working, for 12 hours non-stop. Maybe this had been happening repeatedly, and she resolved to taking her life as a result of stress. And we have 1,001 people who have resolved to doing some things that are bad. So like I said, stress itself is not bad. It is how well you are able to cope with it that is very important. And one thing that you need to know is that stress has an agent called stressor. It has an agent called stressor. And these are the things now that present stress to us in one way or the other. It could be anything. And like I used to tell people, something might be a stressor to you and might not be a stressor to the next person, depending on how well you are able to see. And that these are the things that you need to know personally for you to now be a master of your life. What are the examples of stressors that we have? Certain stressors such as death or divorce, a dysfunctional family, changing jobs or schools, substance abuse, can trigger disorder in a person who may be at risk for developing a mental illness. And what about work pressures that can cause stress? If you have more than one boss and then you don't even know which one to obey, one tells you this, the other tells you that, and then you are trying to be here and there, you are like in a twilight zone, you are like in a dilemma. So sometimes it's stressful when you are having excessive responsibility, even at home. I mean, this will make me talk, we might talk about it later on, about how well we need to build and create a balanced life while working, integrating work and then life together. I mean, some call it work-life balance. And then I am working towards what we call work-life integration. Look, you can see there that there is work here and there is life here. And you're trying to maintain a striking balance. Where would you put it so that one would not bend here or the other bend the other way around? These are the things that you need to really take cognizance of. Number one thing is stress. The number two is bad work-life balance. Work pressures that can cause stress, lack of control over job, barriers to doing the job, responsibility without authority, inability to delegate. Even at home, I want to stress on this. If you don't delegate your duties, then you are going to apply a whole lot of stress on yourself. You are not almighty. I can do this, I can do that, I can do this, I can do that, I can do everything. You are not an almighty. And that's why after a while, you begin to burn out. And then there is nothing left in you again. There will be emptiness because you've been doing too much and then you are not replenishing yourself. There are times you need to take time off. There are times you need to rest, shut down, in quotes. Take your phone and put it in silent mode, or you even put the phone off. You will not die by so doing, because those are the things that will help you in one way or the other. A whole lot of us want to do everything all the time. You want to attend to all the calls. Why do they have missed call as one of the features of that phone? There are calls that you will miss. It's okay to miss calls sometimes. It's okay to see the calls. Some people will even be maybe in the hospital and they are on drips and they are thinking, hey, is this person? No, I must not miss this call. No, you are hurting yourself. You keep giving out and then you are not replenishing yourself. There are times you need to retreat. There are times you need to redress. There are times you need to be alone, because sometimes it is when you are alone that you are refreshing yourself. Even in the military, they call it retreat. I mean, there is no point in advancing without retreating in military. When you retreat, you re-strategize. You look at your plan. You see how you take up whatever you need to do in order to now advance again. So most of us need that. Delegate some duties. Let some people help you do some things. Say, if I'm not there, no, it cannot be done. If I'm not there, nobody will. If you properly do it. And then another thing is inability to ask for help. Inability to ask for help. And I used to tell people, if you don't ask for help, then you put more pressure on you the more. And asking for help is not a sign of weakness. Ask for help. Ask professionals for help. Ask people who are close to you. Like I used to tell people, sometimes it is not because you asked for help that will bring the solution to your problem. That it might not be that person that will bring that solution, but that person can bring what is called solace to you. Sometimes all you need is solace, someone to share your passion, someone to empathize with you. It has a way of relieving you of some of those stress that you are passing through. But it is toxic. It is toxic. Either toxic masculinity or toxic femininity. As a woman, you don't need to show that you are tired. You have to multitask all the time. And you are multitasking until you are even multitasked. You have overtasked yourself over and over again. You want to do things repeatedly. I want to do this while I'm doing this. And you are paying a cost that is called switching cost. Because each time you multitask, there is something that happened. What you are doing before moves from being at the forefront to the background. I mean, you are watching Telemundo in the parlor, and then you are cooking in the kitchen. Each time you are doing the two together. When you are in the parlor watching the Telemundo and something in the kitchen, being in the parlor, the sitting room now becomes the forefront. And then what you are cooking is at the background. And that's why sometimes the next thing you hear, I forgot, I forgot, something is burning. Because you think you can do it all the time. See, sometimes it is okay as a lady not to multitask. It is okay to be fair to yourself. It is okay to tell yourself the truth. It's okay not to burn yourself out, all in the name that it has been said by the culture that as a woman, you have to do all the things all the time. I mean, and that's what I used to tell our men as well, because these women are not just babies machines. When the baby is crying, go and meet your mother. What are you doing? I mean, does she have, you are cooking, you are carrying the baby, you are doing your house chores, you're carrying the baby, you are going out, you're doing a whole lot of things, and you're seated there because the society has said as a man, you have to cross your leg and meet the food, and then you have accepted all that. I mean, we are not saying this thing to create a rift, but for you to understand sometimes that as a society, we need to be mindful of our mental health. Let's go to the next screen. Next slide. Yeah, so why you need workplace counseling? Okay, less stress lead to less absenteeism. Okay, let's keep that. Let's keep that because of our time. Then, okay, work-life balance. I mentioned this earlier on. Yeah, I mean, look at the stats about work-life balance, because some of us are going to be getting into workplace very soon as part of what you are being empowered to do as a result of this accelerator program. Over 40% of employees are neglecting other aspects of their lives because of work, which may increase their vulnerability. You don't go to friends anymore. You don't do things. It's my work. It's my work. It's my work. No bonding with families. I mean, some people will get home after working for a long period of time, and their kids would tell them, "Excuse me, you look familiar," because it's been absent all the while. He leaves very early in the morning, he comes late at night, and the kids don't even recognize them any longer. And then you think you are doing all these things to help them. You are doing disservice to them in one way or the other. You need to create time. Do not neglect all those parts of your life in mingle with people, because when you get to that place and you vibe, you dance, I mean, you sweat, and then sometimes, I mean, you feel relieved. Do all those things. It's not going to be a one-way traffic. Life is not like that. You have to create that for yourself. Good work-life balance. I mean, look at some of the things that I have written here. Coming into work sick and making others sick. Not saying no to when you know you should or can. Sometimes no is a good answer. And don't let it be far from you. I mean, there are very, very good answers. Yes, no. I mean, no is an answer. No, I can't do it. No, I can't come around. No, I can't code. I mean, all these things are things that somehow affect people, and yet they keep themselves stuck without knowing that this will keep creating more stress on them in one way or the other. Another thing is drinking or using drugs, lashing out to cope with stress. All these are what is called bad coping mechanism. Remember, I said stress itself is not bad, but how well you are able to cope with it is what you need to really address. And there are bad coping mechanisms, there are good coping mechanisms. Some people resolve to taking drugs. Some people resolve to taking alcohol. Some people resolve to lashing out at people, to shouting unnecessarily, to screaming. Those things do not address the issue. How well you are able to cope now is what we will talk about later on. Next slide. I mean, there is no how you are going to look at the screen now. You're going to feel like you are just a burden. That's the toothpaste you take in the morning. And then you have like a drink, I have no purpose. And then when you get to work or whatever you want to do, you're absolutely going to feel. You need to galvanize yourself, get yourself together in order to help your mental health in one way or the other. What are the consequences of bad work-life balance? It creates stress on us, it creates anxiety, panic attacks, burnout, attention deficit. Sometimes people are talking to you and then you are listening, but you are not assimilating what is being said because you are burnt out entirely. Then you keep looking like this. Yes, yes, yes. And after the whole conversation, decision fatigue. Some people you have been so much involved in doing things, and at a point in time, just simple decisions somehow you're not able to make. And a little and small decision will seem like something big to you. It's because you have overlabored yourself. You need to sit down. You need to take in again. You can't give from an empty cup. Refill yourself sometimes. And then look at the last but not the least. It can lead to depression, bad work-life balance. Next screen, because of our time, let's rush. What is now the antidote? This is very, very important. How do we get over all these issues that either stress or bad work-life balance creates in our life? Number one thing that I want people to do is what I call the GMC. The GMC, that sounds like a brand of car, and so maybe when we are doing Sherock 2022, GMC should sponsor. You are hearing that now. You should be part of it. Yeah. So the first thing is gratitude. I used to say that gratitude is the antidote to two emotions that mess us up. And those two emotions are anger and fear. Because when you are grateful, you can't be grateful and be angry simultaneously. You can't be. Gratitude relieves your mind. It brings you to the present and takes you to the next thing, which is called mindfulness. Some of you, all you need to do is just to look around and see what you are grateful for. And I want you to write it down where you are now. 3 things that you are grateful for. Because somehow your brain is conditioned to look for what is wrong. That is how your brain is wired. Yes. And that's why you find out that bad news sells so fast. 30,000 people are dying. 500 billion people are dying. That's what people want to hear. That's what the brain wants to get gravitated towards. But it is your duty and responsibility now to redirect your brain. The reason why your brain is like that is for your survival in those days. Because in those early days, we live in the bush, and then your brain needs to see what is wrong, to see whether, a predator is coming around. So your brain is super sensitive to things that are wrong. And that's what you've lived with. But now it is your duty, it is your responsibility to now redirect your brain, begin to see what is right. Because when you begin to see wrong things, you pile more pressure on yourself. I mean, there are stress-inducing hormones that will be coming. When the COVID-19 came, I mean, there was a point in time that I didn't even want to listen to news, not because I don't believe or not because I don't want to hear about it, but I feel that I am beginning to feed my fear. So what I need to do is to see how to stay alive and be responsible. Some of us are feeding our fears. And there is no how you feed. I mean, you have fed your fears, and your fear is like a monster now. You are giving it power. Be grateful. Look at small things that you can be grateful for. And I have asked you to write down 3 things. What are those 3 things that you can easily and be grateful about it? And by the time you do that, you will see that there will be a feel-good effect. Can be grateful and be angry simultaneously. And the next thing happens, which is mindfulness, which is the act of staying in the present. Sometimes all you need to do is just be present. Hey, what's going to happen in the future? Hey, what's going to happen in the next 10 years? Hey. It's good to plan, no doubt about it. But sometimes all you need is just be present, because it will relieve you of anxiety. It will relieve you of unnecessary prayer. Things will work out just fine. Things will be well. You will plan, no doubt about it, but do not plan with pressure. Don't put pressure on yourself while you are planning. it will impair your mental health. And the last but not the least among that is conscious breathing. Wow. I used to tell people, remember to breathe sometimes. And they will look at me and say, wow, breathing is spontaneous. I mean, that's one of the characteristics of a living being. I mean, we used to teach it while we were young in elementary science. They call it Mr. 90D. Respiration is one of them. And then that means we all breathe. But this time around, we call it because there is a connection between your breath, your body, and your mind. So what that means is if you are able to modulate your breath somehow, if you are able to condition your breathing to a way, in such a way that it will give you the necessary energy that you need, it's not going to help you only physically. It's not only going to help you physically, it will help you emotionally, as well. There is power in conscious. We do it subconsciously sometimes. When something happened, why do you think we sigh? I mean, that's a way of relieving yourself and you don't know. But if you take it consciously and you go and then take a deep breath, breathe for like 10 seconds. And then the next thing that you can do now is that you need to identify your stressors and distress your body frequently. What are those things that create stress on you? You need to identify them. Is it work? Is it traffic? Is it your boss? Is it this? Is it that? Identify what your stressors are. And then when you identify them, you categorize them as whether they are eliminatable or whether you will cope with them. What I try as much as possible to do that. Then if there are not things you can do without, how well can you now cope with them? What are the coping strategies that you can employ to cope with them in one way or the other? For example, in the city that I live in, 20 million people in a very small state. So you cannot eliminate that because you need to go out. So all you need to do is, while you are in traffic, while you are commuting in traffic, how well would you cope to help your mental health in one way or the other? You might be listening to music. You might also create like a pleasure around that thing while you are commuting. So your stressors, excuse me, and distress your body regularly. So sometimes try to distress your body regularly. Now, I call these things stressful day to-do list. Okay, we have good nutrition. You eat well because you are not only a product of what you eat, you are also a product of what your mother ate. So as a woman now, eat for your children, because it's been discovered that 80% of children whose mother ate well, they develop resistance to depression just as a result of what their mother ate rather while she's pregnant. So as a lady now, you are not only eating for yourself, you are eating for your children. So eat well for your child. And these are normal things. You know, when we talk about balanced diet, people think it's all about expensive meal. No, it's just the right combination of meals, vegetables, proteins, carbohydrates, vitamins, some of those things. How well you are able to combine them to function for your body in one way or the other. I mean, there are some meals that you see and you will start smiling, isn't it? It's one of them. Another thing is sleep. Take time to sleep. People take it like a pride. I've not slept since. Because you want people to know that you've been busy. You are hurting yourself. Take time to sleep. Shut down your phone. Sleep so well. Let people call you and then you meet. Take joy yourself in seeing missed calls. That might be a joke, but that's the thing. sleep. The next one is take a break. Sometimes just take a break. I mean, I have someone here also who does that. She will tell me that, yeah, I'm just taking a break from social media, and I will love that. Yeah, it's good. Take a break sometimes. Just take a break. Be not seen. Let people be asking after you, where have you been? And when they see your picture, you show up again. Wow, you look so good. I mean, it will give you a feel-good effect again. Welcome back. So take a break sometimes to resuscitate, to, revitalize and revive yourself. And the last but not the least is physical exercise. Sometimes you need that as well, because in your body, there is an hormone called endorphin. When you exercise for about 15 minutes, your body will want to relieve you of that pain, and it secretes that hormone. And that hormone, they are called natural painkillers. So somehow nature has a way of helping us, because they will tell you that relieving of that pain, reliever of that pain, and the hormone is secreted. And you just don't know why you feel good after exercising for a particular period. And these are the to-do list. Listen to happy songs. Tell somebody I love you. Write about how you feel. When you are feeling bad, write it down. When you are feeling good, write it down. It is called journal. Journal your feelings sometimes. Ourselves, we only think about what is not working. If the single thing that is working is like you know how to cook well, celebrate it. That yes, I'm a good cook. Celebrate what is working. Anything, no matter how small it is. Don't be too hard on you. Go outside, sightsee, look at nature. It has a way of impacting your mental health. Wear something comfy, slow down, be your own cheerleader. Some of you are waiting for some people to validate you. Validate yourself first. Hey, you even told me that I am beautiful. You need to know that first. Yes. So whatever anybody says should be a compliment. Be your own cheerleader. Cheer yourself up. Consider how lucky you are. Call up a friend. Sometimes all you need is to just change and tweak. Call a friend. Hello, I just want to check on you. And that would change the whole mood around it. Remember how far you've come. Drink warm tea. Don't overbook. Compliment yourself. Keep life in perspective. Look at pretty art, then trash negative thoughts. Eat something healthy. I'll talk about that. Then you can find a pet, like a dog, somehow. What does the next slide say as I round off this particular period?